Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Take it away.
Mr. Enthusiasm should intro us as he does.
That's John.
Yes, you're the intro man.
Let's not start with a big long.
You can if you like, or we could just like start right now.
No, I think that's the start. I think, and then you just sort of fell over. Is how we start this episode.
Yes, you can't cut that. We started there.
Good evening, Grotty fans. We are.
He's going to cut it now.
Coming to you.
Get rid of this whole embarrassing start.
Feel unprofessional.
Yeah. We're coming to you this week to talk about 3D printing. Ooh. And as always, the thing that's most exciting about us being here is we have an PowerPoint.
Yes.
We have an PowerPoint.
Indeed. In the inimitable style of Tony, which is pictures with bright, bloody, gaudy, magenta lettering splashed all over it.
Can I ask a question, though, for new people that are finding us for the first time?
Yeah.
Why do we say an PowerPoint when it should clearly be a PowerPoint?
Because I said it once in like the first
Okay, good answer.
On with it.
Okay.
That's about it. That's literally it. I said.
Welcome to our bi-weekly podcast.
Yeah.
Last time out, we were talking Imperial agents. We put them in a tier list. There's probably more content we can do with the agents, actually.
Oh, definitely. A lot of people seem to want us to do look at the other things you could do. You know, we looked at the assassins separately. We looked at the inquisitors. But
people want to know about the Death Watch, I think. Death Watch kill teams, man, is what people are interested in.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So more importantly,
maybe there's a good outlet for me to offload all of my Death Watch that I've not used in years. And if people are interested in it, that might be an idea.
I think Death Watch is cool. Death Watch is cool. They're so fun to paint because that's really what they are now.
Oh yeah, sure. The only reason I keep them is boarding actions and kill team.
Really, what Death Watch are I want to do some cool shit for painting, and because of the way the rules work now, it doesn't really matter what they're armed with. I'm just going to build them cool.
Or sprinkle one guy into your tactical squad or whatever.
Yeah. Right. This is important. Ooh. I brought a beer. So I've been drinking boring beer, and I recognise that, and a few people have commented that my beer has suddenly gotten very boring from the usual mad shit that I used to drink.
It's true.
So I have this. This is a Fram Weiss. I don't know if it will focus on it. Is it going to come through? Maybe. It's got the most bonkers can that Man with the Raspberry for his head.
Okay.
It's a Raspberry Berliner Weiss beer.
Okay, so you're bad to completely mad shit beer.
It's German, basically.
No, it's a Cambridge-based brewery.
Oh.
But it's still a Weiss beer style.
Fair enough. Okay.
I mean, listen to this for a set of ingredients. Barley and wheat, that's what makes beer. Raspberry puree, pink peppercorns, hops, yeast.
Did you specifically go out and source this, or is this like a gift that has made its way somewhere onto your table?
Oh, no. I saw it in a shop and I was like, have my money, please.
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't know if I ever once in my life thought when I was having a beer, I know what this beer needs. Raspberry puree.
Or pink peppercorns.
Depending on your reaction here and now, we might have to acquire some more of this in order to go through on the New Year's Eve stream.
Oh,
at the end of 2024.
While he's drinking that, completely off topic, Mark. The deck box, you know this deck box for Star Wars Unlimited?
I know it well, yes.
They are on Zatu Games right now for only £21, down from 35.
Ooh, that's nice.
So,
did you get a commission or something?
No, I just wanted a second one.
Podcast said nobody cares.
Mark cares.
We were talking about it on our last Star Wars episode. Go on, Ed.
Oh, it's got a nice smell to it.
We'll be watching the
smell of raspberry coming through. I like it.
It's like flavoured teas, isn't it? They smell lovely, and you drink them, and they taste like piss.
Oh, that's sharp.
Yeah, we're going to say
it's reaction or a good reaction or a both reaction.
Ooh,
That's a spicy meatball.
Oh, that's sharp. You know when you get a raspberry that's not quite ripe?
Yes.
Like it's a bit green. You go,
So you got a sour's beer, basically, is what you say.
Like it's like sour raspberries.
Okay.
I don't know if
I quite like it, if I'm honest. I quite like it. But it's definitely like green raspberry.
It's definitely different.
Right, so I'm actually just drinking a cup of regular English breakfast tea that my wife has just bought me. But I've just noticed what mug it's in. And it's a mug that a friend of mine got me from a local gaming group for Christmas a few years ago. And I'll just hold it up there to show you.
It's got my name on it.
He's got these custom printed mugs, and I got
That's
the Blood
very
Angel
cool.
one, and I was very chuffed. Cheers, Tom. There's no chance you're watching this, but cheers, Tom.
Right, to the topic at hand then. So today we're going to be talking about 3D printing. Now, it's a bit of a contentious topic at the moment, 3D. I'll say at the moment, it's been for a little while.
Yeah, and it all kicked off a lot when GW revealed and showed off the new designs for the new Sanguinary Guard and everything around that, because people went, oh, God, we got a 3D print, all sorts of things to replace them. So things got a little bit fraught in the Blood Angels Commander Discord and Facebook channel.
It's been kind of chuntering along in the background for a little while. Whenever we post anything about get started with cheap ways to start with or any of this sort of stuff, you see any of these videos, anytime GW release anything, someone will always comment, or printer go, and then we've got the
yeah, it's always just 3D printer goes
yeah.
And that's the thing. So
yeah,
it's
a fact of the hobby.
Get a bit upset about it. Some people have very, very strong feelings about it, and to be honest, so do we have fairly strong feelings about it.
I've got incredibly strong feelings.
We thought it would be worth us actually finally just looking at it dead in the face and having a bit of a discussion about it, because it pops up on John's BAC channel, it's popped up on our channel, it's all over the Discords and the Facebooks. We need to sort of address it, so that's what we're going to do. Now,
as an aside to it, our points of view here are not just our own points of view. These are also the guidelines, ethics, and rules we use to adjudicate disputes and rule breaking on the Blood Angels Commander Discord and the Facebook group. Yeah, so it's the same. Go into a bit of detail to sort of inform the logic behind it.
But again, we came up with that logic a little while ago, and then we had a discussion, and we decided to start being a bit more lenient on it. And that's because the world is moving on. These are common things. Yeah. So anyway, let's crack into it, because not everybody's going to know what 3D printing is. Now, I've put this picture. This is two different printers on here. Now, these are my two different printers. Well, two of my printers, the ones that I use the most. This is why I picked the pictures. But I thought it was probably worth us starting off with a little bit of information about what the two types of printing actually are. So, before someone starts in the comments, but there aren't only two types of printing. There's about 15 different types of printing, and you've got SLA, and you've got DLP, and you've got... We know, but the two that are really the most relevant for what we do, so in the miniatures hobby, we're looking really at MSLA and FDM printing. Okay. That's kind of the two main ones that we might come across. So I made a little video of that one. That's my printer printing. So let me explain what they mean for a start. Before, again, somebody asked me what the acronyms mean. MSLA is Mass Stereolithography Apparatus, and what that is resin printing, what most people will call it.
Right. Is that the one where you have a pool of resin and you shine light at it from above? From below, even, sorry. UV light.
Yes. So let me talk you through it, because, again, this is something that's relatively important, because it's kind of the opposite of FDM, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
What you've got in a MSLA printer is you've got some sort of LCD screen. Now, an LCD screen will have the ability to display graphics. It doesn't have a backlight or anything. All it's got is the liquid crystals, and a signal will go to them, and they will effectively form a pattern on them.
Right.
Now, what your printer's doing, or your slicing software is doing, is actually sending to that the inverse of whatever thing you're trying to print. So it will send a picture. Now, that picture is one layer of your print. in reverse. So everywhere that's not got image will be black. Everywhere that does have image will be, in fact, clear. Not what? Clear. And that's really important because this is the LCD screen. Now, underneath the LCD screen, you've got some kind of light array, usually just an array of LEDs that are sending out UV light. Printers vary a little bit, but I think it's 400-ish nanometers is the frequency that they're using. It's ultraviolet. Now, above this LCD screen, you've got a vat, and inside that vat, you pour your resin, whatever color you want, whatever type you want, doesn't really matter. Different curing times, things like that, doesn't matter. And then above that, you've got a printing plate. So the printing plate goes into the vat, which is hovering above the screen. The bottom of the vat is clear and made out of something called a FEP, which is just like a clear, stretchy plastic. Your plate comes down, forms a very thin layer of resin above the bottom. So it squashes all the resin out. So you've got a very, very thin layer. How thin depends on your printer. Okay. The LCD screen underneath will display that negative image that I mentioned a moment ago. The lights turn on and they'll glow for a period of time, depending on your printers, how long, and 20 seconds for your bottom layer or whatever. That will interact with the resin and it will cause it to harden in a shape. That shape is then baked onto the plate. The plate will then lift off, peel that now fixed print off of the bottom, let the resin run back underneath, then come back down and it will stop 2 layers of height above. The LCD will then change to display a new image for layer 2. The LEDs come on, glows, bakes a new image on there. So what it does, so that peeling will go up and up and up and up and up, and your print will come out upside down on the print plate like that. Okay. Now it's generally a fairly slow method of printing, but it's very, very detailed. You can get some incredible prints out of this. It also doesn't change how much you're printing on the plate. The only factor that matters once you've dialed in your settings, how long you can expose for, is how tall the model is. So you can load up your print plate with like 10 models at once if you wanted to. It doesn't make any difference how long it takes. And
because it's all just shining at the same
rate
of time.
At the same time.
The layer cures.
Printing a complete block or a little tiny thing, all that matters is how tall it is, how many layers it does.
Okay.
So that's your resin printing. That's the one that does, when you see people doing miniature things like that, it's the one they usually use. Yes, I know you can do them the other way. And yes, some of them are quite good now, but they're not as good. Nobody's going to mistake a Terminator printed on an FDM printer for one that you bought from GW. Sorry, they're not.
In process terms, it sounds very, very close to the same sort of way that they use to light etch circuit boards.
Yeah, it is. Except with the multi-layer thing, but the actual basic tech is very similar.
Yeah.
So the other type of printing is FDM printing. Look, there it goes. It's printing a benchy.
Where they extrude a little bit of stuff and then
so this
put
is
it on layer,
deposition modeling.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so someone corrects me in the comments. Effectively, what you've got is you've got plastic on a reel. That's getting fed through onto a print head that gets very hot and squirts it out a bit like a glue gun. In fact, some of the earliest 3D printers were effectively glue guns mounted to what they call an XY system. So a couple of belts, which will allow the head to be moved all over the plate. Okay, so that'll work out a set of coordinates. It's coordinate based. Depending on how fancy it is, depends on if it does different things, but effectively gives it a set of coordinates, starts squirting, follows a vector path where it will draw around, which you can see it doing in that thing. It's just drawing out a shape.
Yep.
Filling in the infill. So the slicer's decided it's going to be this actual shape. That's the thing I'm trying to print, but it can't be hollow in the middle. It could be, but it isn't hollow in the middle. It just goes and squirts a nice loose grid in the center there, depending how you set that up. But effectively, it draws the layer. It's molten plastic, so it sticks to the layer below, and it just builds its way up.
Okay. And because it's squirting out little bits of plastic, it's not as detailed in the level of resolution you can get in the print.
It's not as detailed as, I mean, that one there's, I think, got 0.4 needle on it, so 0.4 millimeters. That's still pretty small.
Yeah.
But you can generally see your layer lines. You can go down to a 0.21, and it's getting pretty good. It's not as good as resin. Yeah, that printer I showed you before, it's got an 18 micron pixel size. You know, 0.2 is pretty good, but in 18 microns.
It's about a thousandth of a millimeter, or what's the actual scale in that?
Yeah, we're putting another 0 in there after the 0.2.
Nice.
So it's a massive difference, but generally my resin printer, because I'm printing in such a small and high resolution, it takes a long time to print. But I'll play it once. With this other type, the FDM printing, how long it takes to print depends on how much printing. A little thing takes less time than a big thing.
Yeah.
Because you're just doing more. It has to drive to each one of those places. You have to use path optimizations, things like that. You get one layer at a time and it builds up. There's different types. There's Core XY, you've got base links, things like that. But fundamentally, they all work in the same way. They draw a pattern and it sticks.
Which one's cheaper? Which one's more expensive?
It's not really much in it, to be honest.
Okay.
Now, the printer that I've got, if I go back to this page, the previous one, probably easier. Come back. So these are the two printers that I've got. That I use regularly. I've got a couple of other ones, but they're different story. This is the Elegoo Mars 4 Ultra, and I think I paid about 190 quid or something for it. The new version, the Mars 5, is out now, and that's 235 quid at the moment. Very reasonable. The one next to it is a Bamboo Labs Mini, which I would argue is A1 Mini is probably the best little printer you can get. And that's on sale at the moment for about 180 quid. So we're putting pretty close to each other. They're both fairly small printers. Bigger ones cost more money.
And if you wait for a sale like a big Amazon Day or a Black Friday or something like that,
different ones, you can get things like a normal Mars 4 for 50 quid sometimes.
Okay.
Or there's so many different brands, there's so many different companies. You can get the cheapest sort of FDM printer like the Bamboo. I've seen for 80 quid, I think.
Okay.
And I've seen resin ones for a similar cost. About 250 is generally where they start to get pretty good. Then they tend to jump a little bit. If you've got 280, 290, you can get the bigger Bamboo. That's a bit better. If you've got 600 quid, you can get the really nice Bamboo, which is one that I use at work a lot.
You're in diminishing returns at that point, where the amount you're paying extra
depends what you want. So I like my little Mini, but it's only got 180 mil square bed. Which means that the thing I use it most for, apart from functional prints, is printing terrain, and 180 mil square bed is not really enough. If I'd spent another 100 quid and got the model up, it'd be 220 square, which actually is a big difference. That might have been better for printing terrain and stuff, but to be honest, I think it might work for that.
Instead, you've got to print bits of terrain and stick it together. Then it's fine.
Exactly, but this one's small; it fits on my desk, and it was much cheaper. Anyway, so that's the technology. Anybody got any questions?
No, but thanks for doing that, because I literally knew F all before we came into this video about how I've never looked into the mechanics of it.
Technology. There probably is some people who are talking about, but I use DLP to print resin models. DLP is the same sort of thing. So it uses a projector and a mirror array to shine the light. It still hardens the resin in the same way. Or I use SLA, and that uses a laser. Yes, I know. You can laser on and do it from the top, things like that. Things like the Formlabs do that.
The only reason
but most people at home can't afford a Formlabs laser printer.
The only reason I know as much as I do is thanks to my local gaming group, one of whom is a commissioned painter, works with jewelry in his day job, and the other one is a railway engineer and has got all sorts of lovely tech, and he's introduced me to all sorts of things. So
I know because I teach this shit to people.
That's
my day job is I have to teach these things sometimes.
Cool. What's next?
So what I wanted to do then, now there's a few different things you can use a printer for, and I've loosely categorized them. And I thought what we'd do is we'll look at the different categories and some of the things you can do with them, and we sort of have a little talk about them, and then that'll kind of get people a feel for where we're sort of, that's really great. That's a really great use, and maybe not so much. That's my theory.
Okay.
Right, let's see if this works. So, type 1 printing. Handy shit.
Okay.
So, all of these on the PowerPoint pictures I've used are just random things that I've printed.
Yep.
That kind of fit into these categories. So, this is actually literally sitting here. In fact, I can take it out and wave it at you. This is modular, and it is a set of, it's a drawer organizer basically, and it stops them with pots right there. So this is the kind of paints that I keep in my desk drawer to my right, and it's my kind of pigment powders, funny effects paints and this sort of stuff, and my Tamiya things. And they all live in there. They're all neatly arranged. They don't rattle about too much anymore, which is quite nice. And if you listen to that, you can't really hear it, but if you listen to the other one, you can, because I haven't organised that one yet.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
So that's a useful thing that you can print with these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop that for a second, and then I'm going to go like this.
I was going to say movement tray markers and other things.
You want to work? Yeah, look at that. So this is me in the slicer software, which is the piece of software that divides up the thing you want to print into layers. So I'm just having a little look at this. Is part of something that I paid for called the Painter's Fortress. I think it's WAG Studios or something. I kickstarted it, and it is a set of essentially paint racks that you can do.
Okay.
Me just playing around with that. So what do we think about making things like this out of 3D printing, gentlemen? I've done a lot of talking so far.
John?
I mean, yeah, the other thing that I've seen it used for that's useful is like I had little markers made for when I performed actions on 40k. You know, like just a little token that can go next to my unit when it's performing an action, and or objective markers could be printed out like this as well, right?
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
ringed objective markers.
Cool. I have a very solid, defined line for what I believe is okay for 3D printing and what I believe is not okay for 3D printing. And everything you've said here so far is cool as far as I'm concerned. It's great. It's useful. You've either designed it yourself or you've paid for the rights to have the design and print it and produce it yourself for personal use or whatever. And that is all cool as far as I'm concerned.
Hang on, I need a file of design myself. Does that make sense? There's a file of design myself. Look, it's the one that's in that drawer.
Yep.
It's using something called Gridfinity for nerds who know exactly what that is.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I designed that in Fusion 360, even though that's a very easy thing to do. I was proud of myself. John, how do you feel about these sort of like random bits of crap that you can basically print out to make your life easier? Or
I like it, man. I mean, this sort of thing gets me excited, right? Like, I feel like I've got a table in this room I could get a 3D printer on. It's just I don't know if I have time for it in my life. And I have a friend that very kindly, like I was holding up the objective marker. I don't know if you saw it, but I have a friend who very kindly made me these with the objective marker in the middle, the 3 inches around, and they made me more tokens that I can use for the Blood Angels. So these sort of things are great, right?
I have a set of those objective round markers as well that I bought off Etsy that somebody 3D printed and mailed to me. So yeah, cool, absolutely, great use.
Yeah.
So I think we're all fairly happy. It's like a wet palette that slides into that Patrons Fortress. I just think it's quite cool. Don't try and be careful if you're trying to. Don't is wrong. Be careful if you're trying to print things that hold water, because a lot of the filaments that you might use for an FDM printer like this are hydrophilic, which means that they absorb water and they'll leak like buggery, and they will go weird if you soak them in too much water. So you've got to coat them or something if you can do with something like this.
Okay.
There you go. So yeah, that's some useful prints then. Okay.
Oh, bamboo. Right, I see. Yep.
That's the brand of printer that I went with.
When you were saying bamboo printer, I was thinking, printing out of bamboo? That doesn't make... I'm sure it'll make sense later. But yeah, there we go. It makes sense now.
Okay, so let me go back to our PowerPoint.
I don't even wear bamboo silk socks these days. I've got some lovely bamboo silk socks.
They're very good for you. They're nice and comfy. I have bamboo sheets on my bed when it's hot weather as well that we brought back from China.
Very nice.
Which is quite nice. Right, so handy shit. We're all okay with that, yeah?
Yep.
Right. How about cool shit then? So one of the things that a lot of people might use this for, and we actually did an episode where we talked about it many moons ago, is things like painting, building terrain. So what I've got on the screen there, I've got something that Noodle Bar is from Saucerman Studio in Australia. And they make a lot of really cool terrains. They're very modular, and I printed that off. It's currently painted and it's sitting on my gaming table for games of Necromunda. Quite a cool little building. Yep. Those little buildings to the left of it are actually ones that I'm meaning to paint. They're kind of 6mm scale. I bought those a little while ago.
So they're
They're
like
actually
epic
for a game
scale, is what
called
you're
Full
saying.
Spectrum Dominance, but I just thought they were really cool, and
Okay.
I wanted to build a cool like diorama, but in new tiny scale. And then you've got some bases that I've bought and printed there in the top right hand corner.
Yeah.
So how do we feel about printing kind of this like terrain, bits of random crap that is cool, basically? I'm just bringing back up my Dicer software.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places, like you said, on Kickstarter and the like, or Cults 3D that will sell you models that people have created from scratch that are fine to print like this. You just buy the license from the people. Bulkheads for a Space Hulk, that sort of thing. Should all be fine, right?
Yeah. All the examples that you showed look great as far as I'm concerned. Terrain is something that any wargamer needs a decent supply of, and being able to 3D print stuff that you've either designed yourself or legally acquired the STL for. Are they called STLs? They are called STLs.
Yeah, there's generally all step files if you want really high detail stuff. But
standard template constructs. Yeah, absolutely. They're great. You can get a lovely variety for them. You can make your gaming board or battlefield look exactly how you want it to. You don't have to worry about stuff going in or out of print because you got it completely at your own ability and facility. In principle, it's all cool. What would not be cool would be if you took for example, Games Workshop piece of terrain, did an exact copy of it, and then printed it. And then it would be even more not cool if you then sold it.
Stop jumping through my slides. You know what they are. You've seen them.
Hey, you cool stuff for
this is cool
terrain.
stuff.
This does count because cool stuff can include that.
It comes in later. Stop it.
All right.
Right. So how about then miniatures? So these are miniatures. These are all STLs that I've bought.
Yeah.
These miniatures here. So there's like a little display kind of miniature. Are a set that I bought from Scale 75. They did a Kickstarter where they released a lot of their miniatures as STLs. So I've got a few of them sitting on this kind of palette. So this is a different piece of software. This is Chi2 Box, which is what I use for my resin printer.
Yep.
Because I tend to use resin printers for this sort of printing. You can see, look, Scale 75, because these are properly licensed models before somebody starts commenting.
Yep.
Did buy them. I paid my own money for this.
Yep.
I think they're really cool. And then the other thing I've got on here are some bits. So these are some gravestones and that, because I bought from a company called Epic Basing, just packs of like brambles and gravestones and that. And these are actually for my old world fantasy battle army. I printed loads of these sorts of things off for my undead. So they're basing bits and some miniatures. I think most of these miniatures are actually for a kind of game that Scale 75 tried to make their own miniatures game, and it sort of fell flat on its face. And then they've sort of started selling the miniatures out of it as STLs if you want to buy them instead of the things.
If
so
you go looking outside of wargaming as well, there's a website that I've been using over the years called Hero Forge, which is like mixing and matching bits and pieces to make your own miniature, giving it the clothing you want, the weapons you want, the pose you want, the race you want, the accessories you want, all this sort of stuff. And then they'll either print it and mail it to you, or they'll sell you the STL for the thing that you've built in there. And people use that for their own Dungeons & Dragons characters or role-play game characters.
I have seen that. I've never used it. It's been around for a few years. It used to be quite expensive, I remember.
It's come down as technology's come down.
The STLs are quite cheap, but actually, if you have to get the printed one posted to you, it was quite...
Yeah, and it's more reasonable these days than it used to be, but they've also got premium options like getting it printed in metal and all sorts of other crazy things.
Oh wow, didn't they do that? That's pretty wicked. Yeah, all right. That is pretty wicked. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, go and have a look at
them.
them.
Well, it's been a while since I've looked at them, because I remember the postage being the bit that was really a bit unobtainable. I think they were getting posted in from the States.
I've saved several characters on my Hero Forge account from roleplay games I've done over the years.
I'm just playing around at the moment, but just because I thought someone would probably ask me about it. So generally with these kinds of things, you don't just hit print and they come out. You do have to do things like supporting them. So I'm doing the lazy supporting at the moment.
So it automatically works out where to put the supports and does it?
Yeah, so there's an auto system on there which can do it. It's not always right, but you can sort of add your own in there as well and things like that.
Okay, so if you were to buy a resin Forge World Workshop model, you'd have gates and things to clip off the model that you'd got.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. They don't come out looking immaculate. And to be honest, same with FDM, but not quite as commonly. A lot of things that are FDM, like most of the ones I've just shown you, will actually print as they are. It's only when you've got the default for the slice is actually 30 degrees, anything over 30 degrees that will try and support.
Cool. Yeah.
It doesn't like overhangs.
All this is good stuff. All this is original stuff that you use for your games. And yeah, absolutely fine. The only point Games Workshop would have a leg to stand on is if you tried to take this stuff into their shop and have a game with it.
How do you feel about it, John? See my random miniatures?
I like it, man, and I think it's got a lot of practical uses, like Mark said. Like, you're having a D&D campaign or something, you've made character that maybe isn't easily accessible. You can... I've seen that Hero Forge website before. You can make your own character, you can customize it, you can buy the STL, you can buy a 3D print of it. It's all very good. I'm trying to think if I have any that aren't specifically tied to a game, but unfortunately not. I mean, I guess I've just never got into 3D printing, but this is all kosher as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So it's some really cool stuff on there. I mean, I really like it.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting tech. I've spent an unreasonable amount of money on cool STLs from various different companies. One of the companies that I've just bought some bits from, I just can get these out of the way actually, is a company that I've previously bought resin miniatures for, and I didn't realise actually they were printing their masters before they made the molds from them, because they were cast miniatures.
Yeah.
And that's Abyssal, and they make some absolutely incredible miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm going to put some up just because I can, and these ones have just arrived. This one's quite a nice one.
Okay.
And hang on. Oh, so these is like 75mm display miniature. So this is all the different parts to make it. And these are incredibly detailed miniatures.
Okay.
So you can get some phenomenal, really cool stuff if you're into sort of display painting and things like that. So I like my display painting. I really like doing the 75mm stuff. So this is super cool.
You paint for the pleasure of it, and you enjoy it, and you're really good and practice at it. So it makes
I really like it. So doing busts and things like that, this is a great way. You can get loads of them. You can print the ones you want. You can make your own as well, and you can find some really interesting stuff on the internet. So, all right, let me quit back out of there then. Back to our PowerPoint. Point of power. Here we go. There we go. So cool shit. Everyone happy with this sort of thing?
Yep. So how do you define, if you had to summarize and define cool shit in a concept, just a quick like one sentence concept, what would it be?
So type 2 printing is the sort of thing, for me, this is how I've just broken them up arbitrarily.
Yep.
Is companies and individuals making cool, unique things, like scenery, like dioramas, like busts, like their own miniatures, like the cool bases. Okay. All of these different things that are all unique, made by skilled individuals, like ZBrush and things like that, who just make cool stuff, really.
So they're inherently original work that is perfectly...
Just cool. It's not necessarily useful. It's not. So our type 1 printing, that's our functional prints, right?
Yep.
That is people making things for a purpose, often sort of engineering style. They're sitting out there with the calipers and they're making a thing that does a thing.
Yep.
This is just stuff that people are making because it's cool.
Okay.
No other real reason for it. Now, they might have a business where they sell these cool miniatures or whatever, but doesn't matter really. This is just cool things that people have made. It's their product. They can sell it. They sell you an STL. You print it. Away you go.
All right.
Or you get a free one. There's loads of free ones on the internet as well.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, type 3 printing then. Copyright shit. So I'm not going to lie. I actually struggled finding pictures for this. That's not because the internet's not full of it. It's full of it. It's because I haven't printed much of it. So what I've got on the left is a Marauder 2 assault mech. Now, for Battletech, we did a Battletech video a while ago, and I made this. And this is a file that's actually been ripped out of, I think it's been ripped out of MechWarrior Online. or the BattleTech game. So what people will do sometimes is they'll get a video game, they'll go into the code, they'll actually take the 3D model and they'll load that into a piece of software that allows them to make it as an STL, and then you can print it. Now, this is a little bit of a grey area on this one because this is a miniature that you can't buy. The company that owns BattleTech, Catalyst Labs, do not make this model as far as I know. But they make a lot of them, and you can get most of the models out of MechWarrior Online and that and just print them off. And a lot of people do. They don't buy any of these models at all. They just print them off. Because the way the game works, there's no tournament, so you can get away with it. You just stick it on a hex base and away you go. The other little one there is a Vindicator tank. It's clearly a Vindicator. It's not marked as a Vindicator. It's not labeled as a Vindicator, but it is a Vindicator. Now, this one happens to be an epic scale. But again, I'm a bit short on things that I've actually printed that are. But this is a Vindicator. This is a model that you could go and buy. If you printed this at full size, you could print that off, stick it on a table, play 40k with a model that you did not pay GW for. Yeah, so take it away.
John?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is where the problem lies, right? Is like anything that is copyright like this should not be printed. Certainly not for selling, but I think in general it just shouldn't be printed in general, right? I think this is where probably the bit of discrepancy came with that Crimson Lords video, because it was like, are we endorsing copying copyright models? Well, we're not. We're generally saying that we just can't have these things. You should not be printing these things. But here's the thing, right? Like, I don't even 3D print, and I know that you can go to I'm not going to say the website, but if you Google this, you could find these prints.
Even big ones, Printables. You know, Printables owned by Joseph Prusa. They're probably the biggest printing website there is on there. Full of stuff that is clearly copyright. They've just labelled it as something else. You can see some of the labels here. I mean, that's Epic Vindicator. I've written that, but that's me labelling it. But I think the file is called something like Awkward Transport Tank or something like that. But this is clearly a Land Raider Mark 2B.
Yeah, and well, that's just the thing. If you search for these things, you'll find them in minutes, I guess. And that's why that's where that comment 3D printers go brr comes from. Is if the prices get too much for people, and let's face it, a lot of people are struggling with prices of stuff, then they look for a cheaper way of doing it, and it's not great, honestly.
I've got a real Land Raider Mark 2B here that I'm painting at the moment. Now, this is an out-of-production kit, and you could make an argument that out-of-production models I can't buy from the producer. So if the company that owns the IP doesn't want to sell it to me, then I'm within my rights to go and buy it. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that, but I'm saying that's an argument that people will have. It's the same one that comes up with recasting, things like that. But this was a pretty expensive model. It was about £120 because it's a Forge World conversion kind of kit that goes with a standard Land Raider. And I can print this one off at the... In fact, let's do it. Let me get rid of all these other crap off the plate. I don't think my printer will actually go big enough for it, but it doesn't matter. It will just throw up an error. This is the Epic model, like I said, but let's make it bigger. So let's throw it up. So it's about yay high, so it needs to be about 4 times the size, really. There it is. There it is. That's it. I could print that on my Bamboo or whatever it is, and I would have a Land Raider Mark 2B. Right, maybe a fairly low detail one because it's designed for epic scale. It cost me however much material it is. I wonder if it will tell me if I go in there. Maybe it will. Let's find out. If I want to print it in resin, it would cost quite a lot, to be fair. 716 grams. It probably cost about 15 quid's worth of resin if it was one big lump. You'd never print this because that would be mental. 15 quid's worth of resin is ridiculous. Let's hollow it out. Start. Hang on, I'm making it way less because 15 quid's worth of resin is a bananas amount of resin.
It's a brick.
Before somebody says, yes, I know it's not supported, and I know it would fill up, and I know that it wouldn't print. Hell, it doesn't even fit on the print bed. But I'm just trying to get a rough feel for sort of how much that would cost if I printed it in resin. There we go. 66.9 grams. I know it's too thin, but we're looking at a couple of quid.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. But yeah, I mean,
12 hours of print time.
who... I guess it's worth saying as well, like, you can't... Bottom line is you can't take this to any official Games Workshop. Like, you can't take any 3D printed parts. You can't take any third-party parts. So if you're going to any Games Workshop events, you cannot take any third-party parts.
Completely within their rights to do, as the tournament organisers and the hosts, they are absolutely allowed to say what they will or will not allow in their games.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine, but I think...
and go, yeah, I'm okay with that, or no, I'm not okay with that, I'm not giving you any money.
Yeah.
I think in general, I mean, we haven't touched on recasts, but like for a long time in Warhammer, there was dodgy websites from China. Some of them you couldn't even get to without specific passwords and stuff like this. Yeah. It was like certain people in the community had access to these websites.
But 3D printing is
still and they made knockoffs of all the Warhammer models for like a third of the price. So like you said, like if your Land Raider was $120, the knockoff would be like $30 or $40, and it was an inferior product. Usually had some problems, usually had some warping, but I guess you would get it for like a third of the price. And it's I guess just in general,
and no
if you do that behind closed doors, like on your own in your own gaming club that nobody knows about, then I mean, there's nothing that we can do to stop you. We're not the police. We're not the IP coordinators.
It is still theft.
Yeah, but like, I guess the point that we're making about like our Facebook group and our Discord, like, you'll probably get banned from our Discord if that's something that you are advocating or posting about, right? Like, we're just not going to allow it.
So I have the hardest line out of the three of us, as I've basically been able to judge from the time we've been doing this all together. And my line in the sand informs a lot of the decisions we do and how we enforce it and the rule that we make. And it's based off a very simple principle. That principle is, if I had designed something, if I'd sculpted it, and somebody scanned it or copied it without my permission, without paying me for it, without my knowledge, any of that stuff, and then reproduced it for themselves, with me getting no remuneration for it, assuming that I chose to sell it, and then they did that themselves and then sold it on to others, making profit off my work, that would piss me the fuck off. That is illegal, and that is wrong. And no matter how much I disagree with Games Workshop's business practices, and I do, there's some shit business practices Workshop do, I do not believe that they deserve to be stolen from. I think that is immoral, unethical, and wrong, and that informs my enforcing of our do not steal shit sort of policy as it comes to 3D printing.
Yeah, and if anyone has any questions about that, then Mark just recently got promoted to the only other person in the whole community who is admin over everything. So, so you can take that with Mark and he'll tell you where to go, I guess. Right?
I'm not trusted enough to have that admin.
You've been busy with the baby, to be fair, so it's just Mark's always around.
So I just put this into the bamboo slicers to see what it would cost if I FDM printed it. Interestingly, it'd take about the same amount of time. Look, 11 hours and 6 minutes. I've had to support it a little bit. That's what that green is there. That's some
looks like slime. Looks like slime has attacked it or something.
From it would cost 300 grams of filament, so about a third of a reel. So you're looking at probably 3 or 4 quid. And it wouldn't look quite as good as a resin one, but it'd be a lot easier to print, and it actually fits on the plate for the FDM printers. Yeah. So I could put that on my printer tomorrow, and by the end of the day, I could have a Land Raider, and I could play a game.
Yeah, and let's not mince words. Nobody's going to know. You do this in the comfort of your own home. You print this stuff off. You play with it. No one's going to police you. Nobody's going to come around. No one's going to magically know this has happened. But you've still stolen someone's work.
Yep.
And printed it. And they haven't got paid for their work, which they have chosen to sell.
It's no real different from pirating a video game or pirating a movie, really, is
absolutely.
it? It's just the exact same thing. This is where we need that old advert. You wouldn't steal a car. Doom.
And I also understand that
Have you seen that meme that says you wouldn't steal a pensioner's winter fuel allowance?
I understand I'm coming at this from a position of relative privilege in that I have a decent amount of disposable income. I can afford to do this stuff. It's easier for me to be able to say I would never do this because I can afford to support my hobby on my own. And other people may feel more inclined to break the rules and break the law to do so. And I get you have these justifications, and I get that it's easier for me to say that. But at the end of the day, you're stealing someone's work. It's shit. Don't be a shit.
Yeah. So, yeah, Mark, of the three of us, Mark's probably the most hard line if that didn't come across. I wouldn't say I'm softer. Now, when I was younger, I wouldn't say either way, have got some games that I cracked on my computer when I was a young man. I might have had LimeWire and all the viruses that come with it. Mark doesn't even know what LimeWire is. There's going to be some millennials in the thing going, I remember LimeWire and all the viruses.
I hadn't remembered that name for like 20 years, honestly.
And I'm a little bit more now. I don't know, it's a soft line and it's a justification to myself. I'm not quite so fussed with a product that I can't buy. And I do feel a little bit of that with, in some ways, with something like TV and things like that. If I want to give you my money, or I want to give Games Workshop money to buy a product, and Games Workshop tell me, no, you can't have this money. That might be because it was a very limited product. It was made in a technology they don't have anymore. It might be just because they do some weird bullshit range rotation thing. That's their prerogative, their products. They can sell whatever they want. Here I am. Let me buy this thing. I was so upset with the Mark IIB. I was really upset because I kept trying to buy it. It kept being out of stock. And they said, it's going off sale. And they gave me about no minutes notice. And by the time I'd actually opened the email, clicked on the thing, it was sold out. And that was a model that I'd wanted for years, couldn't afford, and I'd actually saved up. It's a little while ago. I'd got the money. This is my going to buy a 2B fund. We're going to go to Warhammer World and buy it, and I couldn't. And I was really upset. Now, in that particular case, I ended up paying way too much money to some wanker of a scalper on eBay for a kit. I reckon I paid double what GW wanted for this because I wanted this model. And that's going to leave me feeling a bit bitter that I've had to pay double to some wanker that's scalped a lot of them, bought them all, and then is selling them all at a massive profit to profit themselves.
Scalping is a whole other practice that I hate and despise, but yeah, absolutely.
The GW don't care. They've had their money.
It is unfortunately legal. It
is legal. Now, I bought this. It's a real one. It's not a fake. It's not a recast or anything like that. Now, I could have, as you can see here, hit print. Got one. Cost me £3. Didn't cost me the unreasonable amount of money I paid. But I made that choice. It's a model that was fairly recent. I could have bought it a couple of years ago. I didn't because I had more important things to spend my money on. Now, there is an exception to this, and it's something that I'm actually working on at the moment. There was another model sold very, very briefly, and it goes back a very long way, which was a Tau Orca Lander. Now, I've never seen a Tau Orca Lander in the flesh. It was a Forge World release. It was hand sculpted, sold very briefly for a very large amount of money a very long time ago. I can't find one. I can't buy it secondhand. They don't exist. The only possible way I've got of ever getting my hands on this story thing that I've only ever seen in pictures in the Codex is to find an STL for it or find someone who's 3D modeled or whatever and turn it into it. It's the only way I'm going to be able to get that. I can't buy it. GW aren't going to sell it to me. Then I'm thinking, well, I want to give you money, but you don't want to sell me the goods. And you never have wanted to sell me this thing. It existed very briefly when I was a kid, basically. You could go further back. You look at the Armor Cast. Now, many, many years ago, there was an American studio that had a license to make vehicles that Games Workshop didn't want to make. It's basically Forge World, but in America. And they only sold them in America. They never sold them anywhere else in the world. So there is no possible legal way for me to have ever obtained that model. Am I in the wrong going, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to find someone who's got one in America, get them to scan it, and I want to make my own.
Yes,
I can't buy it.
And the reason why you are is because the people who made it don't owe you
No, they don't.
the ability to have bought it in the slightest, or to have sold it to you. There's a very famous incident about a music group, was it Wu-Tang, who recorded an album, made one copy of it, and that was it. And it's been sold to some guy who's kept it somewhere, and nobody can ever listen to it. And this person plays it for their friends every now and then. And this really high-profile band, their music that they made was deliberately sold to one person, and the world can't hear it. Well, that's their choice. They made it.
They did. Although I would argue that was almost an art installation in itself. There was a point behind why you've only sold it to one person, whereas
Still,
the other one was there was a little company when GW was throwing their license everywhere. There was a little company, and they didn't sell it anywhere else in the world because they couldn't logistically. It was
getting a version of the product that you want that isn't a direct rip-off, but close to it.
Yep.
Inspired by, fine, no problem. Inspiration is not a carbon copy. It's not a direct rip-off. And that I've got no issue with.
Where do you sit on this, John?
Yeah, I'm with Mark. I think we have to say that an inspired version that is different is okay. I mean, I recently bought a Calidus Assassin on eBay that is not the official Calidus Assassin because at the time Calidus Assassin was 30 quid and the inspired version that looks a bit different is £10.
Proxy.
So if I was going to a Games Workshop tournament, I know that I can't take that Calidus Assassin, right?
Yeah.
But it is not trying to be the Games Workshop Calidus Assassin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Going back to these models, I was just saying like the armor cast stuff and that. Now, for the record, I haven't actually got any of those.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'll end up probably doing is making my own because I love that old art for the gargants, things like that. Yeah. And at some point, I'm going to sit down in Fusion and I'm going to design one. But I'll design that from scratch based on pictures.
Yeah.
Because the chance of me ever finding someone with an armor cast one on a 3D scanner is effectively nil.
I challenge you to go into the old Fire Warrior video game and get a 3D model and see what it looks like in there and use that as your inspiration.
And build it out of that, which I think is the only way you'd ever get one. I forgot about that, you know, Mark.
Yeah, they're in there.
I don't have an ISO for that because that would be copyright infringement. I've got the real version though. I genuinely have the PC version that they released on GOG recently and the original disc for that. That's another kettle of fish.
You can see roughly how big it is. You can build a box.
Yeah. That's another kettle of fish. Getting into I own the physical copy. Is it wrong for me to take a copy of my own copy as a backup?
Oh, ROMs. Yeah, ROMs is a whole other.
Anyway, so I haven't got these things. All right, so
okay.
I think I'm a little bit more nuanced than you two. Then I'm not quite so bothered by people who get things that you can't buy. But I do think there is a kind of statute of limitation. I'm talking about things that were made 30 odd years ago, and there wasn't any other reason than they just sold that small volumes.
Well, I was going to say, in the same way, Mickey Mouse, I believe after 75 years they will become public domain.
Have you seen the Winnie the Pooh film?
I know someone's made a Mickey Mouse game on Steam that's black and white where you basically are playing Doom with Mickey Mouse now because he is in the public domain.
Yeah, is that
so maybe in 45 years, if you're still passionate about 3D printing, you'll be able to get your Orcalander and it'll be totally fine.
If somebody's ever got one, it's in the same boat as the metal Thunderhawk gunship, which I will never, ever get one of those models. Any of the armor cast stuff or the metal Thunderhawk, none of this stuff is ever going to pass through my hands. But I would
because you dropped it and broke it. That's why
I did drop it and break it. Okay, so let me jump back to PowerPoint then.
Okay,
because we got a bit more controversial there, but it's time to sort of go all in. The Type 2.5 printing. I can make this bloody thing work. Here we go. Type 2.5. The grey areas.
Yeah, the grey areas.
I've not called it grey areas because I've got a slide here from Grey Tie Studio. It's just a coincidence before somebody goes, hey!
I don't think it's a grey area.
I haven't got anything to really show you on this because I did have a little look and I was like, do I have any bits or anything that are kind of in this grey area, and I really don't. I don't have any files on my computer, and I'm not going to go looking for them. Yes, I could go looking for them. That's just not entirely true. I have got that free sample from that picture. But so these are grey areas. You know, we look at these two pictures. I can't remember where the other one's from. It doesn't matter because I don't want people going looking for it and going a bit, no, you're copying Games Workshop or some bollocks like that. If you want to find it, I typed in Sanguinary Guard Wings STL. Those wings are not the ones GW produced for the Sanguinary Guard. They're not it. They're inspired by it. They're quite close to it, but they're not it. The heads even more so. Some of those heads look very close to what the let me see mine.
But they're
very
also
close to what the real ones were.
They're also demonstrably not.
But they're not. You know, and then we look over here at the old Grey Tide stuff. This guy's head is very close to one of those new heads that we've just got from Forge World. Very, very close to it. I think the only real difference is he's got this little thingy on his head. He's got a blood drop now. Yeah, that's clearly a chainsword. It looks a little bit more like the Eldar one with the blood drop on it, but it still is what it is. That looks a lot like the cloth on the Apothecary. It's not. It's clearly a bit that you can add to a model, and I've got a shoulder pad here that is clearly not inspired by it. Well, it's inspired by, but isn't like anything that's ever been sold. So what I've got here are things that are inspired by, that are, in case of some of them, incredibly close to, but demonstrably different.
They're not also not scanned, right? These are all made from hand by Scratch.
They are. Well, I assume so. I don't know. I've got no way of verifying that.
I suppose we have no way of verifying that, but we think they are.
They are very close, but they are demonstrably different. Now, that
to the best of the knowledge we're able to ascertain, they are original works that the people who made and produced these did themselves and owned the rights.
You know, but if you're a sufficiently good engineer, I could make you a rhino that looked very much like a real rhino. Yeah. But I drew it from scratch. I just got the rhino in front of me and I sat there and I made it. But it looked just like a rhino. So
yeah, but I guess the point is,
I made that file from scratch. I didn't 3D print. I didn't 3D scan anything. I made it to look exactly like a rhino that I could buy from GW.
Well, then there's your problem, right? Like if it looks exactly like the real thing, it's copyright.
But I made it.
Shouldn't do it.
It's my effort. I spent the hours to build that file.
Bit tough. I mean, that'd be like saying that like I designed the New York Giants logo to look exactly like this logo on my T-shirt because I made it. It's mine now. You know, if it's.
What about then if I made exactly that rhino, but on the top of it I wrote Tony's Rhino? Because that's the same model. I've just got Tony's Rhino emblazoned on the top.
But if it's obviously the same model, then it's copyright, right? Like,
well, where's the line? It's demonstrably different. I've got Tony's Rhino written on it. You can't.
No, I don't think you could get away like it.
Where's the line?
Well, the line is super difficult to draw, but right, like if you look at these, Sanguinary Guard wings are not pointy like these ones are. The jetpacks don't have the swirl on top. The jetpacks also don't have those extra thrusters. So, like, if you actually start breaking this down, there'd be like 5, 6,
really
7 differences between these. So, like, at some point, there's enough differences where you can say, well, that is
original work.
Yeah, that isn't that. It isn't even copying that. But it's taking a fuckload of inspiration from it. It's not. It's not the same thing, right? And I guess that's where the grey area is. And I guess that's... So basically, here's the thing, though. Everybody knows Mark's opinion now. And Mark is judge and jury in our Discord.
Yeah, yes.
So, if Mark thinks it's copyright, then it's copyright and it'll get deleted. It's going to be as simple as that.
Don't get me wrong. I know I'm being awkward on this, but I'm doing this on purpose because this is the area where people have the arguments. I think most people are okay with don't steal people's shit and print it and sell it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are okay with you designed a thing, it's completely unique, you made it, you sell it, it's your thing. But where people have the arguments is when you've got something like this. Where is that line where you've gone, how much new do I need to add to the model? Is it percentage? Is it, if it's a really big model and I've added quite a lot of little things to it, but you look at it from a distance and the profile's identical, is that copyright infringement? But when you get close, you can see it's covered in filigree. Even though at a distance, with a bad printer, it look identical. You won't be able to tell the difference.
And my answer to this remains very simple. And the reason why it is what it is because, as you say, to define that in a legal term, say 99% is fine, 100% is not, is almost impossible to adjudicate in any way, shape, or form. So the point of view that I hold in adjudicating these things is very, very simple. Case by case, context. Are you having this thing that looks almost exactly like a Games Workshop product, as far as I can tell, and you're trying to sell it and encourage other people to buy it and do it and print it and share it? Or is it something that looks close but isn't quite there, and you're doing it for slightly different reasons? You're sharing it as an artistic thing. You're printing it solely for your own use. You're not trying to encourage other people to commit what looks an awful lot like copyright theft with what you're doing. Then that kind of nuance, I'll be better able to judge and take that in individual situations, rather than say a hard and fast, this is the rule that I'm going to adjudicate, here is the line. Because this is a lesson I learned a few years ago when running and helping to run live roleplay systems. We're in a society of wargamers. Wargamers are infamous for being rules lawyers and finding the loopholes in rules for their own advancement and winning a game, basically. So trying to create a set of rules that people can't break amidst a community of wargamers, you're on a losing proposition right there, mate.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
So
it's
spirit
just,
of the rules.
This is where we've got the arguments coming up.
Yeah,
you know, I've just done this to play the game. You know, this is the new sprue that GW have sold me. I've got 4 of them down there in that new box.
Yep.
And I'm looking at these new vampire heads.
Yep.
And then I'm looking at this vampire head from Grey Tide, which is again a new product that I could buy for money.
Yep.
You know, it is demonstrably different, but it is also not that demonstrably different, is it?
Yeah.
It's very, very close.
Close, but it is also clearly not a replica.
It's that guy with a
thing
on
the
his head,
little blood drop in the middle of his head. You can tell that it's not a copy of one of those. So in this case, in that comparison, I've got no issue with it. I also don't know everything, so it might be a copy of something else somewhere that I don't know. So
again, I'm just sort of
I'm not GW's rules lawyers. I'm not their IP lawyers. I'm not that bothered about it. All I'm bothered about is if I'd made something, would I be bothered that you appear to be trying to steal it?
No, I do think my line again is ever so slightly different in that if you're using a common ancestry, then I don't have a problem. So, for example, I genuinely don't think there's any real issue with this Grey Tide vampire man. I think he looks quite cool.
Yeah.
And this one here. And it's not because I think it's demonstrably different. Because to be honest, I don't think it is. I think if I slice one of those in half on a 3D scanner and put the other one on top, it's the bottom half of one and the top half of another one. I could make that. But a bit like when Games Workshop spent all that time switching to Uruks and things like that with the big change to fantasy, Astartes rather than saying Space Marines, and these other changes when they found they couldn't copyright them. You can't really copyright vampire man with a blood drop.
No, it's difficult.
You know, it's a common ancestry. It's public domain to have vampires. And there's only so many ways you can draw Fangy Man. You know, it'd be very difficult to draw a Fangy Man and not make him look like some variation of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think that. I don't think you can copyright that. Basically, GW. I just don't think you can copyright things that are so obvious. It's a vampire. You know, it's like saying, well, you know, we're going to change the name of goblins to whatever they've changed them to now, and say, right, you can't have goblin's a goblin, mate. It might be a new goblin. It might be your model of a goblin, but you can't copyright the word goblin as you found out because Tolkien got there first. You can copyright your models, you can copyright your designs, and you've actually seen already that GW know this, and they've started to try and push off into much more unique things that are recognisably, clearly their own IP, rather than going down that kind of Lord of the Rings route, which is where the kind of ancestry was. You know, there's only so many ways you can make Skellington. It's a skeleton, it's got a sword, it looks like the one at Jason and the Argonauts. Can you copyright that? Well, no, you can't. So that for me, it's a little bit more nuanced. You know, the profile of a rhino, it's a rhino. There's nothing else in the world that looks like a rhino. This is a Land Raider. I could take this and I could look at it from meters away. I wouldn't be able to see any new fancy iconography. And maybe that person spent hours and they've made this beautifully filigree. If they made it for themselves, go nuts. But that's a Land Raider, however you look at it. That's Games Workshop's IP, even if you completely cover it, because it's basically the profile that then we're copywriting here. You know, you'd recognize Mickey Mouse from the 3 circles. You could draw what you wanted in them, but it's Mickey Mouse. In fact, Andy Warhol did a piece of artwork based on that, didn't he? And that's where kind of my line is. When you've got something that is demonstrably something that belongs to GW, like it's a unique thing, they've made it. To me, it doesn't really matter how many things you stick on it. If it looks like it and it works like it, it's probably it. So I'm actually, weirdly in this case, much more hard line, I think, because I'm not really okay with proxies that look pretty much like the real thing. Not from
so you don't have the chain swords, for example. I mean, it's a chain sword, is a chain sword, is a chain sword, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a unique chainsword, and I guess if we start picking at that chainsword, you could say that, you know, Games Workshop chainswords only have teeth on one side, this one has teeth on both sides.
Scorpions ones don't. They've got the double chainsword.
Well, yeah, so there is problems. It's really just going to have to be up to us to draw the line, but if we think it is copying, then it will be removed from the Discord, and if you post it again, you'll be banned or something, you know?
I do think it's quite interesting that I'm more hardline, I think, on proxies than Mark is, but I'm less like on like display things that I want that are cool to go in my shelf that I can't buy.
Well, you make an interesting point. It is a grey area,
in a way.
But the problem is, 3D printers are getting better and better.
Yeah, they're incredible now.
And some of the stuff it's impossible to tell the difference between official models and some of the 3D print stuff now. So just be aware, like, like the main thing for us is that people don't endorse copyright in any way, shape, or form, right?
We don't endorse it. I don't think we never will endorse it because it's theft. And I think it does come down to we can't, let's be honest, we're not allowed to, but even from a personal point of view, the three of us have discussed this at length, and we've had these discussions off camera for years about recast and things like that. Now, a few years ago, I actually did an experiment, and I went out and I bought the official GW part for a model. I think it was a Leviathan Dreadnought, actually, and the arms for it. And then I bought a Leviathan Dreadnought from half a dozen different recasters, and I compared them. Not because I particularly wanted to give the recast my money. I just wanted to see, because everyone always talks about how recasts are better than the real thing. And now we're getting, 3D printers are actually better than the real ones. They're not, because they're one model. And you end up with a squad of identical things. It looks shit. I'm sorry, it does. So we've been talking about this for years, and I do think it's really, really quite interesting. You know, my line is, if I make if I buy a proxy for a model that GW are trying to sell me, then I've effectively taken money from a company that's making products and selling them. You know, they've got a product they're selling me to play their game, and I've gone to buy a cheaper one to play in their game. Well, then that's kind of where I have a thing. I suppose it'd be different if I was playing one-page rules or something.
Yeah,
but
that's an ethical line rather than a legal line.
It's an ethical line rather than a legal line. We all agree on the legal
which is
line.
absolutely cool.
I think we're a bit more on the ethical one, a bit more loose.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man.
I think
it's difficult to justify enforcing rules in a Discord or community based on arbitrary ethical lines that we've decided apply to us and making them apply to someone else, unless we're way up front with saying, look, these are lines, we don't cross them. By coming into this community, you agree to that. If you don't like it, get lost. But we haven't done that here in this case.
We haven't done that. We is an open dialogue. We're not lawyers. You know, legal disclaimer: not lawyers. I'm a teacher. I can't.
The only hard line is if you're stealing it, no.
Yeah,
and I think that's what it is. You know, we're not okay with copyright infringement.
Yeah,
we never will be. As it comes to things like the Crimson Lord stuff, you can't copyright. You can't copyright shared ancestry, and to me, I'm actually genuinely going to buy this when it releases. because I think he's got some really cool ideas, and I like the jump packs especially.
Yeah, I really like the jump packs with wings. Hey, and do you know what? I just want to throw it out there that I actually made a video asking Games Workshop to sell us more custom parts. Because there's obviously a huge community here of people that want these custom parts, right?
Yeah.
So
these guys are filling a niche. We want to buy these things. GW don't want to sell them to us. Is it wrong to?
So this is a weird one because Games Workshop could make us all happy tomorrow by releasing the custom, like, you know, the upgrade sprue you just showed that was the quote-unquote Death Company upgrade sprue. It doesn't have a single red X on it, right? For me, who's played Death Company for 30 years, red X's are important. So if they release a red X upgrade sprue...
Red X on things.
Well, yeah, but I suck at freehand, man. So I'd rather just paint the indented red X nice and simply. If they release that red upgrade sprue tomorrow, or the red X upgrade sprue tomorrow, it would sell, right? It would sell, but they're not. So I guess people are entitled to look around for the bits that they want.
It's not quite such an issue now, but remember back in 9th edition when people were running Death Company, 10 Death Company with 10 Thunderhammers, and you got one Thunderhammer in the kit, and you had two choices, didn't you? You went to a third-party company that was selling bits and bought Thunderhammers, or you bought extortionately priced bits from kits that were being sold on eBay. That was your size. Two choices. I actually am quite pleased with GW for, this is controversial, John, you're not going to like it, but I like the fact that they've restricted what you can put in units, what's in the box. Partially because it helps me, because all my Death Company were made with chainsaws and one special weapon in the squad, because I was too cheap to pay the points for the whole squad of them. But also because it now means that I don't have to feel that I need to go to eBay and buy 5 Power Fists and 5 Inferno Pistols.
I mean, I am happy about not having to do that and buy lightning claws and all that nonsense.
I've got the box, I've got the parts, I'll make the models.
I have mixed feelings on this, but I think that's probably a subject for another video.
Okay, yeah, that is the subject for another video, because...
So, I think we've probably done this to a death. We've come to no conclusions, apart from none of us are okay with copyright infringement. But I do hope people who've watched this can sort of understand where we're coming from when we've sort of put those rules in place on our community. Which is what the purpose of this really was. And to say we're not ignoring it, we know it's there. Printers do go, what you do in your own time is your own business. But we have our feelings on it, and that's what they are.
Yeah, 100%.
We're all people. We all have our feelings on the subject. We're not doing this to be inhuman. We try and understand us. You try and understand us. We try and understand you.
I know it's completely against what we were just saying, but I really want to print that blown up Mark IIB that I just blew up from epic scale to this. Not because I want it, I've got one, but I really want to see how that looks in epic. Let's see what come out.
Okay. That's a great way to end this particular bit. Cheers, Tony. Thanks a lot.
As long as you burn it in a sacrilegious fire after you've checked it out.
I mean, I could do. I'll probably give it to a kid, but I'm just curious now.
I know.
I do like that new Eviscerator. I think it's wicked.
I need to make some models with the new Eviscerator, actually.
I do as well. Actually, here's a controversial hot take. I really like this upgrade sprue. I like it more than the old one.
Get out. I need to do that in Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. Get out.
Does one upgrade sprue contain everything that's on here? The 2 of the wings, 2 of the little skulls, and you get 4 of this one sprue.
Yeah.
So you get 20 of those shoulder pads in the bottom right.
Yep.
Each.
You get enough to make all the models in that big old box set that comes.
Yeah, more than enough.
Yeah, I can't actually. I don't know if you do.
But do you want to know the messed up thing, Mark? Because you didn't buy the box, did you?
No.
Right. In this upgrade sprue, they have put on chainsword.
Yeah.
Right. But if you want to make the units that come in the box with as many power fists as you can, you do not have enough power fists.
Yeah, I heard that. I've seen a lot.
So basically, they put a chainsword, which I was basically saying like every single model already comes with a chainsword.
Yeah.
You are replacing those weapons with other weapons whenever possible, right? Yeah. But you still have not enough power fists.
Why don't you put a chainsword in? Because everyone's got loads of chainswords. The only thing is you can put chainswords on come with a chainsword.
Yeah, all come
For
with a
every
chainsaw.
single one. Yeah.
Every
Yeah, I get
single
it.
model in 40k that you can, or in Blood Angels for 40k, or Space Marines in general, that you can equip with a chainsword, I think, comes with a chainsword. The only
Yes.
exception is I'm not sure if you can still buy that Gravis Captain that comes with a power sword and not a chainsword, or if you can only buy the newer kit that comes with a chainsword.
No, I think you can only buy the newer kit with the chainsword. Yeah.
How much of that beer have you drunk, Tony?
I finished it. It's quite nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was really I
Give us-
question the logic of who made this upgrade sprue. Like, they looked at it and they went, "We've got space for one more weapon. What do you think Blood Angels players would love? Chainsword?"
It's not a 3D
Yeah.
Grots video these days if we're not bashing on GW about something, is it? Really? Let's face it.
Maybe, but I do like the rest of them. They've not even put any blood drops on that chainsword, have they? They can't even say yes, but it's a special Blood Angels chainsword. No, it's not.
Is that a little blood drop inside the purity seal?
I mean, maybe, but come on, nobody's going to see that from 3 feet away, are they?
Yeah, it's fair. All right.
Whatever. Moving on then. Pile of gory.
Yeah. What?
It's been a while
Yay.
since we did Pile of Glory.
John, what have you been doing?
I actually really like these new models. I've been building and painting jump intercessors. I've actually spent like 6 or 8 hours on them since this point. So they're about
Okay.
half done now. This was probably... I don't think they've all got their base colours on them at this point. So this was just like me
Has that
base...
sergeant got a power sword and a power fist?
Yes.
Is that legal?
It is, because on the data sheet, when I submit my army list, I will choose the power fist or the power sword, and then he's got his holstered pistol.
Okay.
I'm done with magnets, man. I am
All
done
right,
with
okay.
magnets.
Yeah, sure.
I
So-
never got the bandwagon of magnetising my infantry, and I'm glad I didn't.
So at the moment, he always has the power fist and the swords, essentially, for display purpose. And then Astaroth, I've made Astaroth. He's in the background there.
He is.
He's quite cool.
He looks awesome. That is one model I definitely do want to get.
I really like the new jump intercessor models, but I'm going to use all the ones I get in the box as Death Company, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to buy a box of Heresy Mark 6 Assault
Yeah.
Marines, and I'm going to turn those into my jump intercessors because I also really like those models.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree. I feel much
And
the
it
same.
differentiates them a little bit.
Fair enough.
What are
Because
the black lines on that?
between the new Heresy stuff and the Primaris stuff, there's not really much in it.
What are the
Sorry.
black lines on the backpacks?
I have
On
no
the-
idea. There's just a little raised notch on them, so I decided to paint them black.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Cool.
The one in the bottom left doesn't have it. You can see that I haven't painted
Yeah.
his ones. But there's just notches on them. Like, I just paint them black.
Okay.
Just trying to break up the big area of red, I guess.
It makes sense.
Fair enough.
I also really like the 2 new characters. I think both Lamatis and Ashrath look great.
I do want to get Alamatis, but not as much as I want to get that Astaroth because he just looks so majestic.
He does. I just think he looks cool. I think the new Sanguinor looks shit, but the 2 you get in the Death Company box look great.
I quite like the new Sanguinor.
Why is he wearing Primaris armor? It doesn't make any sense. He's a fucking warp demon.
He's a warp
And
demon.
why
Who
has he got
cares?
a face from Planet of the Apes, Mark?
Yeah, right.
Why does he look like an extra from Planet of the Apes?
That is a problem.
Supposed to be
I
his face.
agree.
It's supposed to be Sanguinius his face.
I'm currently choosing to reserve judgment until I see it in person and see if it's not just a dodgy photo taken from a dodgy angle.
Sanguinius did not look like an extra from Planet of the Apes.
I don't know.
I thought he kind of looked
way.
a little bit like Thanos when they.
I can see that.
No, I'm not defending that. It
genuinely
does look
think
a bit bad in the pictures that we've seen so far, but
It looks fucking awful.
GW have shared some bad pictures of new models before and they've turned out okay, so I'm willing to reserve judgment on that until I
I
see it.
might use the head off the new Apothecary
Sure.
because that's quite elegant looking. But if I'm
Okay.
honest, I've still got the old Sanguinor here, so I'm just going to put him on a bigger base and call it a day.
My
The old
Sanguinor's
Sanguinor was
my
beautiful.
Sanguinor's a metal one, a lead one.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
I've only got a fine cast one, so I am jealous. Right, Mark, what have you been doing?
Well, I've not been doing a lot Warhammer in the past, like, I don't know,
Little while.
8 or 9 months these days. I did get hold of the new Codex, which I got hold of from a reseller separately. I didn't want to buy the box as a whole because I didn't want all the models it had in it, but I do want the Codex because obviously I want the Codex. So I got the codex, and it came with a little set of data cards in it as well, which I'm sure will be out of date within months when they get errated or something on those lines. Another business practice I'm bitter and twisted about, but the codex is very, very pretty, and I'm very happy with that. So awesome. Thank you very much. It's great. Something I have been doing over the last few months a lot of is playing Star Wars Unlimited, a new CCG in the market that John, like a drug dealer, got us hooked into by saying the first one's free. How dare you?
He did genuinely do that, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get into this new card game, guys. It'll be great. Here, I'll buy you some cards to get started. Woo! Thanks, John.
Dealer.
You're welcome.
So that UKTC medal in the box there in the bottom right, that was my second place tournament trophy out of a 100-person tournament where I went 6 wins, 1 loss out of 7 rounds, and I'm really proud of that and chuffed at that, so I'm very happy with that. And the card in the middle there is a special foiled version where I went top 8 in a local store showdown tournament event with Star Wars, and I'm pretty chuffed with that as well. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last few months.
Very nice. That new codex book is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, I did buy the box, and the book itself is fantastic. It's got a phenomenal mix of really old art and the new one, but they've blended it together almost seamlessly.
Oh yeah,
it's such a pretty book. It's beautifully foiled. The cards are great as well. They're really nicely printed, super high quality, lovely foiling. Yeah, I know they're going to go out of date.
And from a totally selfish point of view, because the resellers who are getting the box and splitting it and selling the models separately at pretty good value are making more money off the models. They're just looking at the codex and selling them off relatively cheap. So when workshops sell this codex separately, it's going to be about 35, 40 quid. I paid 23 for mine.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'm really
I
happy
also want to buy another one because of that. But actually, I'm a sucker and I do quite like the cards. I've got the Space Marine cards as well, and I'm glad that I've now got some Blood Angels ones because it's quite nice actually when you're playing a game. Just have the card for the units you're using.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
There's literally no. Did you get the cards included in the 23 quid?
Yeah.
Yeah, then that's a steal because there's no way the new codex is going to be less than 30.
Oh, absolutely. UK. Yeah. It's great value.
That's
I'm
what
so
they
happy
charge
with that.
now for a codex 30.
Yeah. I know it's not relevant, but I actually really liked the box that they came in.
Yeah.
Did you get the box with it, Mark, or did you just?
I did. The box was pretty-ish. Ultimately, it's a little bit of card that I.
Yeah, I understand, but I didn't know if because I've sent you the cards and it's the cards.
It came in the box shrink wrapped with the book and the cards inside. Yeah.
Yeah. And the way that the cards fit in this kind of cardboard bit there to make it there, really, really, really like. I know it's a little thing, but it's just so beautifully sort of like die cut out,
engineered.
The way it fits in there so neatly.
Yeah,
it gave me little shivers. And I'm keeping this box to store my codex and cards in, and I'm going to 3D print a replacement for the piece of cardboard, and I'm going to keep them in here because I think it's pretty.
Okay, good. You do that. That's awesome.
So, all right then. I'll move on. So I did a bit of printing, printing. Oh, I don't know. I've gone a bit funny. I painted some stuff.
Yep.
It's been a while since I've done this. So I finally finished off my Apothecary Biologist.
Yep. Looks awesome.
I did.
Love the deserty base.
Sorry?
Love the deserty base.
All of my, you sort of see with the terminals, all of my Blood Angels are on bar-light bases.
I'm not sure I'd have done the study box that he's carrying in such a close colour to the deserty base.
It looks a bit different in person because it's metallics, but it's
okay,
copper.
Fair enough.
Cool. But all of my bases are that colour, so
yeah,
it kind of fits in.
That's your army base colour, which is cool.
That's my army base colour. Which is a pain in the arse actually, because when I did the first ones, it was quite a clever sort of fade between this kind of light colour into this dark colour, but it means I've got to do a wet blend on every single base for every single model in my army, and it takes fucking ages. That is a 1980s librarian who is hilariously tiny. He only actually comes up to the waist of that librarian Terminator in the bottom there.
He's a metal model, is he?
Sorry?
That's a metal model.
Oh, very metal. Yeah. Lead.
And what was he? Remember they used to be like codexer or
there are 4 ranks of librarian. There's the lexicanian, the codicier, the epistolary, and the chief librarian.
Yeah.
And what was he?
I don't remember. I've got one of the old catalogues somewhere, so I'm sure it will tell me in there.
One of them. He was either rank 2 or 3, I think, if I recall correctly.
I don't think he wasn't a top boy.
No, he's definitely not a chief librarian. I can't remember why.
That's a cool little model.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I got him done. I blasted out because I needed them for a game. The Terminators that were in the Leviathan set.
Yeah, which are bloody good models and very cool Terminators.
Very nice models indeed. I've got another box of the new ones. I've got loads of the old ones, but I've got another box of the new ones that's a multi-part kit, but I haven't got around to building it yet.
As reimaginings of models go for profit of old stuff, they are very cool.
They are exactly what we want. What I wanted.
Yeah,
they're the old models, just updated
better.
a bit.
Yeah.
And then there's the Librarian Terminator one there as well.
It's also a really cool model.
Yeah, and again, I've got the old Blood Angels Terminator Librarian, but I've never quite finished painting him. So I got the new one done instead. I will get the other one done at some point.
I actually like this one more than the old Blood Angels one, I think.
Well, mine's converted because it was back when you had a difference between swords, axes, staves, and thingies, and I made mine with a spear.
Nice.
So cool. I quite like spears and Blood Angels, so I'm really pleased that the new Sanguinary Guard have got spears as an option.
There is one Blood Angel Librarian model with a Force Axe and Storm Bolter that I do want to get, that I had once and it got wrecked and trashed, and I do want to get another one to replace it with.
Terminator Librarian?
The plastic Terminator Librarian from the Space Hulk box set, Brother Calistarius.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that's a bit different. That's a very special model.
Yeah. And I want to get another one of those at some point, somewhere.
I've got some of the Space Hulk models, but I don't have that one. He's very expensive now to try and get as well.
Yeah, that is why I haven't got another one since.
Yep. So, Johnny, found it?
I have, but I even found the mail order bit that you were talking about.
Yeah.
But I don't think... Where's my camera?
He's not on that page, is he?
No, he isn't on the Blood Angels one,
Yeah, I
so
think
probably
he's
generic.
I think he's older than that because this is a Rogue Trader Librarian.
Yeah, I think you're right because all the ones here have like little inscriptions, like I don't know what you would call them, like wavy bits on the sword.
Yeah.
So
this is older than that.
This is older than that, and this book was published
those hybrid kits
in 1996. So this guy is at least 30 years old.
He's a 1980s librarian.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think it just I can't remember now on the Slosser base. It just said librarian.
Fair enough. Awesome. How'd you feel about having got them done?
I was very pleased with him, actually. Well, all of them, because it's been a while since I've got anything finished. So it was nice to get some stuff done so that I could actually play a game with them. So naturally, they immediately died in the first game without
of course.
any
That's the way that works, isn't it?
This is the way.
This is the way. Newly painted model syndrome.
Awesome.
Well, what can you do? And the biologist has yet to do anything useful either. But in my defense with the biologist, because I don't really have anything good to attach him to. Not that I play with at the moment, because I'm not using Gladius or anything like that. He's not really got a place in the army. I just think he's a cool model.
No. He might have a place in Aggressors in the new Blood Angels detachment now that Aggressors can advance and charge, but I guess we'll see.
Maybe.
I've been having a lot of fun with Centurions the last couple of games, man.
Yeah.
The advance and charge on Centurions and so I just fish with the Centurions on the sustained, right? So like I reroll all misses looking for those sixes Centurions get 12 attacks. Last night I took them against Knights, and against the first night the Centurions got 18 hits from 12 attacks. So it's and that was just fishing for everything. So I re-rolled a bunch of hits the second time round looking for more sixes, just to get. So 18 3 damage attacks. I believe the Centurions did like 22 damage to a knight. So it was literally dead at that point. Or I had like 3 wounds left. And Centurions are cheap. Like
they are.
Points.
I really like them at the moment. Were you running them in a Land Raider or were you running them on foot?
In a repulsor.
Ooh.
Because disembark 3, then move 4, then advance, and only the stratagem for advance and charge you don't play until after you've rolled your advance roll. So you get to roll your advance roll before you commit your CP, which is kind of interesting.
Nice.
That is tasty. I'm tempted to run. I've been looking at running mine in a Land Raider, but I haven't got around to trying them out at the moment.
Well, Repulsor is a poor man's Land Raider.
Yeah, well, I think the standard Land Raider at 240 points is
not too bad, not too shabby.
Not too bad. I do think the Redeemer's still a little bit too expensive.
I do agree with that, yeah. They've dropped off completely since they went up to 285 points.
It's too many points. 260.
They're definitely a victim of their own success.
They were. It's still a cool model.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what we got this week. I don't know if I have anything painted for next week because everything I'm trying to paint at the moment is ginormous. Yeah.
Awesome.
Which takes ages to paint, but that's where I've done.
I'll maybe have a little bit of my jump intercessors done for next week.
I will not have painted anything new by next time we do this.
Okay.
I can probably guarantee that.
Thanks for sharing that. It's good to know.
But I will have gone to at least 2 more Star Wars tournaments between now and then.
Okay.
I'm trying to get ready for this tournament we've got in November, Mark. That's what I'm.
Yeah, I know that the guilt for that is certainly creeping up on me. That I still haven't really done anything constructive towards that yet, and I really do need to. But to be honest with you, I'm waiting to see how the new points are going to shake out. Yeah,
it's going to be really interesting when the points have got proper points values, and we're not just using Codex points for this.
Yeah,
because that's going to. I did mention we'd like to do the new Blood Angels tier list for the new units. We want to do a new Getting Started with Blood Angels video, but we can't really do either of those until those points are out because
until the official release.
Yeah, I think like the Sanguinary Guard at 50 points they're a bit overcosted. At 30 points they're undercosted and they're great. So where they sit is going to depend on where we tier them.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Okay, I've put the subscribe, like, share, comment, and support us on Patreon slide up on the screen.
Yep.
So those are things you can do. We do really appreciate it if you consider doing any or all of them.
Indeed, they help keep us in new, shiny, interesting things to discuss and talk and cover for your amusement in these horrifically long videos that we do every now and then.
Has this been a particularly long one?
What, an hour and a half?
No, I don't think so.
2 hours?
Not too long.
Not quite
there
2
we
hours.
Go, then. So, thank you everybody for watching.
Remember
to subscribe responsibly. Try and avoid copyright infringement, certainly in front of Mark. And we'll see you in the next one.
We will indeed. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye. Ta-ta for now. Toodles. Tutty bye-bye.
We're just going to keep going till you run out of...
I don't know.